Welcome to Qatar KickAround, the nightly wrap-up and discussion of the day's action in the 2022 World Cup. From the group stage to the final, our team is here, keeping you on top of the world's most watched sporting event. Brought to you by Westwood One Sports.
Hi-ho, and welcome to Matchday 16, a.k.a. the end of the round of 16 of Qatar KickAround, our nightly wrap-up, recap, Jim Jam about the action taking place at the World Cup 2022 over there in Qatar. Hi, it is I, Peter, hanging out with the man who everybody knows everything about the World Cup, Andy Swift.
Howdy, Peter.
Garoppolo.
Garafulich.
Oh, sorry. And the man, the myth, the Sith. Live from London, Lars Sivertson.
Hello, Peter. How's it going? Is this because of my preference for hoodies?
Are you wearing a new hoodie today?
I'm wearing a new headset, which is making it a different shape. In fact, it's making my whole head look the new headset is too large for the hood. It's making my head a very strange shape.
You've taken a whole new Haley Joel Osment kind of vibe to a new level today.
It's just rounder, Peter, but I suppose that's what you meant.
You look like a very cold, out in the cold Haley Joel Osment today.
I am pretty cold. It's
cold in London.
It's cold over here.
It is cold in London. All right, let's before we kick off with all the action of today, let us do everybody's favorite Qatar KickAround feature, known as Professor Andy's Uncle Andy. Professor Andy's World Cup trivia, brought to you by Soccer 90, whether they like it or not.
All right, so with Morocco advancing today to the quarterfinals,
spoiler alert!
Yes, this was the first African team to advance to the quarterfinals. And this is the trivia question: since which team from Africa last reached the quarterfinals? So, who was the last African team to reach the quarterfinals prior to Morocco? Bonus points if you can tell me the World Cup that it happened in and who they beat in the round of 16.
So 2 bonus. Is the answer Toto?
Back to you, Peter.
I guess not. Okay. Everything
That would
okay,
be
Lars?
Togo.
It's the dog.
Oh.
Uh-oh. Was that a
Lola.
stick?
Yeah, I use my crutch to close the door to the side room
Okay.
without having to leave the screen. See, I was going to do this very smoothly and under the radar, but you've messed it up now.
Well, it's such an interesting visual as your augmented reality background cuts off your head and you look like a headless person wandering around on screen. So, okay. So now, Lars, did you even hear the question?
Yes, last African team to get to the quarterfinals.
Okay. All right.
And-
Just want to
and
make
when.
sure. And nobody cheat in the comment
I
section.
multitask. I'm good. Sometimes it might look like I'm not paying attention. I always am.
Okay. All right.
We'll test that
Almost.
at some point.
We will absolutely test that. Okay, so today, maybe my favorite tweet of the day was one of my favorite things that happens on Twitter is when a corporate business account gets snarky and funny and kind of risks it all a little bit by attempting to be funny about something topical in the moment. And today it came from I believe it's an Irish airline, Ryanair.
Oh, no.
Who, after going out on penalty kicks, said, from the people who brought you Elf on the Shelf, and it was a picture of a Ryanair airplane with the Spain starting 11 on top of it. Spain on a plane.
Oh,
Spain on a plane. Get it?
That's fair enough. I think I've blocked them. It's just they do this sort of corporate humor thing, and occasionally it's acceptable. But they also when Jadon Sancho wasn't included in the England squad,
that's right.
They tweeted at him and say, "Hey, we can fly you wherever you want to go" or something. Which you know what?
Oh man!
Just stick to being literally the worst airline in the world. That's that's what
do that
you
well.
guys say. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
There are places I would walk rather than fly with Ryanair.
Wow.
And we don't need a toxic social media account to go with just having a profoundly awful product to begin with.
To be fair, the ratio of the comments underneath talking about how people get left behind or their plane gets delayed.
If they were flying, Spain would still be there. Yeah, this is
Missing
exactly
luggage was a very, very high ratio.
right.
Yes,
Would arrive in Hungary for some reason.
it did take us to the thing that again, this is what proves that Andy knows knows more about the World Cup than anybody else in the world, because yesterday he practically wrote it in my forehead with a knife. This is going to be the upset of the round of 16. Morocco is somehow going to figure out a way to win this, and I'll be darned if that wasn't that game had Morocco-Spain, unlike the other game yesterday. What was the game yesterday?
South Korea, Brazil.
Yes, there was no
Croatia.
tension to this game had a level of tension and danger to it for reasons I'm not quite sure.
Croatia and Japan had a little tension, but you're right. Because Morocco just seemed like, first of all, like they were really, like they knew what they were doing defensively. Like the game kind of played out a little bit like we talked about.
For
like
once, we were right.
Yeah, I mean, we were wrong in that we all predicted ultimately Spain to finally advance.
Yeah, I think I made the error of saying 4-0 Spain.
Yeah.
I said blowout.
But that was just you being contrarian, because both me and Andy said roughly the same
Thank
thing.
you,
We
Lars.
said a narrow Spain win, and you just wanted to be different.
Thanks for sticking up.
Did you see how he came out with that 4-0? It went to him, and he's like, 4-0, like no hesitation. 4-0, bam.
Either way, we got the game we expected, Andy, but not
Yes.
the result we expected. We
right.
thought evil would triumph. That's harsh on the Spanish, but we thought the big team would get there in the end. And that, and that the underdogs would put up a valiant fight and make it hard for them, but sooner or later the quality would show, is what we thought. And that, due credit to the Moroccans, it's the same as what we saw against Croatia in the group stage. It's the same as what we saw against Belgium in the group stage, to an extent against Canada. They're just really well set up off the ball. They're really intelligent in the positioning. They fight, obviously very passionate. They fight for everything. Quite a few teams come to the World Cup and show a lot of passion. I'm not saying that's easy. Those are important qualities to have. But we can combine that with being really well organized and people staying in the right positions and just being very smart about it. That's what's impressing me more than anything. And Spain just couldn't get through them.
Yeah, well, the passion, you're right. It's important. A lot of teams bring passion, but the passion was combined with a true home field advantage for them. They've traveled just about more supporters than any other country that's close in proximity, a country with a lot of cultural commonalities. And so I think that helped Morocco, and it's helping them. I mean, they're advancing.
they're next door neighbors.
Now, Spain, like to credits Morocco's the way that they just their shape defensively, because Spain possessed 80% of the Spain had more shots on goal in the penalty kick shootout than they did for 120 minutes.
So there was a great tweet that came out after the game from somebody named Duncan Alexander that said, after winning 7-0 in their opening game, Spain goes on to average 1,356 passes per goal in their next 3 games. And I do want to bring this up because I do find this interesting, because I feel like we have now pivoted to a new attitude about Spain and possession, heavy passing oriented teams that has gone out of fad, because I seem to remember a day where we used to just marvel at teams that would commit 750 or 850 or try to break the 1,000 pass barrier. And now it seems to be a point of contention or a joke. In point, there's another tweet about Rodri in particular. Rodri today set a record for 206 completed passes in a game by himself.
How many were more than a yard or two long?
Which, by the way, breaks his previous record of 204, which he achieved in the previous game against Japan, and they lost both those games.
Yeah, I think part of it is it's been figured out how to defend that style, right? I mean, case in point, Morocco, what they did today. I mean, let them have the ball. If they're just going to ping it around, let them have the ball all you want.
And the center halves just won everything. Sofiane Amrabat, for me, is one of the sort of, not a highlights reel guy, but one of the standout players of the tournament, just sweeping up everything in that defensive midfield role, just picking out stuff and actually looking after the ball in a way when they got it. I mean, they had some nice little moves they orchestrated as well. And it was just a case of, you feel free to pass the ball around the center circle, Spain. Like, we don't care. Like, you can do that all game. We're completely happy with you guys doing that over and over and over again. And then it becomes on Spain to try to open them up. And the frustrating thing, I guess, and if I was Spanish, I might be a little bit critical of the coach here. Even players who want to try to do some more difficult things and take some risks, looked like they were inhibited and afraid to do so. If you know what I'm saying?
Yes, I have to say, as an American, it was quite enjoyable to see another noted nation struggle to break down a low block or a team defending deeply. I thought that was relieving to see somebody else struggle with that.
Yeah, now Morocco do it exceptionally well.
They do.
I mean, this was I don't know if it was a master class, but I mean, and it was kind of like the reputation they had coming in. Lars pointed this out when we were doing our previews. He said, look, watch out for this team. They can really defend well. The key for them is going to be on the counters. Are they going to be able to get some past other goalkeepers? And they've done enough to advance. And so kudos to, look, Morocco, they're good at what they do. They do it really well. And it's helping them advance in this tournament.
But what I also flag up with Spain, because I'm a bit disappointed in them. They had just 13 shots in this game. Like, it's all well and good having 77% possession and setting all these pass records and whatever. But you know what? If you can't break down the low block, take some shots from 30 yards. I mean, maybe the goalkeeper will spill it into something. Maybe it takes a deflection. Maybe something will happen. It's the sort of... We don't think... I mean... It's easy to look at this game and say that Morocco was the team that was playing with no risk and taking no risk and not daring anything. But I actually think Spain's approach is kind of risk-free as well, because they're not encouraging their wingers to try to go past their man to create some imbalance. They're not trying the through ball, even if it looks a little bit iffy. You know, they just let's knock another sideways pass here, and then we'll get to 1,000 or something. I mean, they need to try some things at some point, and they just weren't.
I think that's a really, really good point, that you look at a team like Morocco and they're the ones that aren't risking, but when in fact Spain is much low risk. Just even if you're trying, like, bring out Morocco, and I don't know. You sometimes try to draw out a team that low blocks, and then you try to counter them, and maybe Morocco just wasn't falling for it. But to me, it show a little bit more risk. I mean, what Lars is saying is change things up, and you might have to take on more risk to do that, but take some initiative. You're Spain, right? Take some initiative, take some risk to win this game, and they just didn't show any of that.
Morocco had more dribbles than Spain in this game.
That's crazy.
Which is like, I mean, surely after... Maybe not straight from the off, because you want to control the game and you're worried about counterattacks and all this stuff, yada, yada, yada. But maybe, like, after an hour, when you've been unable to break down this low block, just tell your wingers, hey, Donny Olmo, you're a very technical guy. Try to get past your man. Like, don't worry. Take a risk. If you lose the ball, it's fine.
The thing is, there wasn't space for that. They have to readjust their approach to then be able to have that happen. And that's, to me, where they didn't have they didn't want to set themselves up to be countered. Or to make a mistake in the back once they allowed Morocco to come through. But that those little through balls, those little dribbling situations, you need space for that, and they weren't getting any space because they weren't trying to do anything different.
It's a fair point. It's difficult. It's very, very difficult when they're that low. But my point is that they were just not. They weren't chancing anything. Like, there were just so many, like, can we find an opening here? Oh, well, we'll go back to Busquets, or we'll knock it back to Gavi, or we'll keep the ball moving. But sometimes you have to try and create some imbalance by maybe do a 1-2 or a dribble, even if there's not a lot of space. But they played it so safe, and that to me was very frustrating to watch.
That's why I was confused in watching the games, because I don't feel like Spain have been terrible at defending, and I never felt like, and I mean, I know that against the Japanese, that's I guess maybe that's what had them worried, but I never felt like they were in such danger of Morocco getting on them for them not to open up a little bit and try a little bit harder to attack and be less safe. The game never felt that way to me. It just felt like a team, to your point, Lars, that just wasn't trying to do anything and being overly cautious when they didn't need to be overly cautious. Does that make sense?
No, that was my reading of it anyway. And then, of course, when you're really struggling to open up the opponents, and when there's very limited space and you actually get very few clear chances, then suddenly the quality of the forwards you have, or the lack thereof, becomes an issue again.
Yeah.
Because, like, mean, there's one of I was more, behind the scenes info here. I was more quiet than usual on the WhatsApp today. But one of the few messages I did drop into our WhatsApp was in frustration over Alvaro Morata, because they had a very rare counter-attacking opportunity that Morata just messed up in such a dumb way.
But it was very Morata.
It was like, oh my God, you dumbass. It's like, I was so frustrated. Just because, yeah. And having said all that, they do have a ball that hits the post right before the end of the game.
Yeah, but that was a deceiving hit. It was a glancing.
Yeah.
Like, it was just not a good effort to cross it.
Was it a cross or I don't. It was one of those. He couldn't quite decide which one he wanted to do, I think. So I mean, they could have done something, but I thought Morocco were outstanding defensively. They really were, and
they were a lot of fun to watch. I mean, a lot of times you get teams that want to play that style, and they're not fun. They're overly passively defensive, if that makes sense. But these guys were aggressive and passionate, and I'm sure the fact that, as you guys have mentioned, the crowd was a huge factor in just kind of the atmosphere of the game, and added to that tension that I mentioned at the beginning. This game just felt very different than any of the other round of 16 games, whether they were blowouts or tight games or whatever. And then I just getting to penalties. The idea that Spain would get to penalties and miss or have saved all three of their first three penalties is like,
and they were bad shots.
Inconceivable to me.
They weren't good shots.
It was a beautiful day for the Moroccan goalkeeper.
Yeah.
Okay, here they come.
No, that's the only one I'll do.
Come on, Lars. I told you in the WhatsApp.
No.
You should have like a whole. You should have like a stack of note cards with them on there.
I snuck it in there.
Did he find what he was looking for?
Yeah. It was the sweetest thing, and he moved in mysterious ways, and there's a lot of stuff going on here.
Just to reset for those that haven't listened to the podcast, his last name is
Banu, and Lars insists that's
it tends to be pronounced Bono in Spain, certainly, which is where it comes from. So you get the YouTube puns. But he's a very good goalkeeper. He's a good what we in England slightly condescendingly call a good shot stopper, which means he's got good reflexes but is a bit iffy in the area and not amazing with his feet. But he's definitely got good reflexes, that's for sure.
Did anybody else have, especially after the Busquets save, he actually looked a little bit surprised at how easy it was for him to save those three. Like, there just was a weird look on his face, like, I can't believe this is happening to me.
After the third one, did you see that there was a shot?
Yes.
He was
Yeah, I haven't done my homework and consulted the very good penalty book that is somewhere in the house. But I think there's a thing about how teams that have less pressure on them do a little bit better in penalty shootouts.
Yeah. Plus, he had the desire.
Sure.
Yeah.
Did you see?
It's just because Busquets just looked like a human Goya painting when he was about to take it. Like
sorry, Lars. Lars, he threw a pun out there, and
I actually completely skipped over that. That was very good.
Okay. Sorry about that.
See, it's fun. See, Andy's joining in. It's fun for everyone.
Magnificent he was.
If he figures out a way to roll in Sunday Bloody Sunday, I'll be
I
really
looked to see
impressed.
what day they would play, and I'm like, they'll play Sunday. Okay.
I'm worried for Morocco. They haven't, this is very high up for them to be. They might get vertigo.
Wow. Hey, did anybody else see the comment that somebody said that Luis Enrique had told all of his players to make sure they had practiced 1,000 penalty kicks in the lead up to the tournament?
Well, I think he meant like over the last year. But
right. Not like on the day before the tournament, but I guess at some point they had given him a homework assignment.
Yeah. Do you think they did that?
Clearly not. Or maybe they did and it just freaked them all out. I don't know.
I feel for the players who thought they were going to be in the squad and who weren't picked. I can't think of anyone off the top of my head, but there will have been players like maybe Iago Aspas has been like furiously practicing penalties and then he wasn't picked for the squad. And it was like, damn it.
Or that's not the way to do it. You tell the guys homework, go home and practice your PKs in your backyard, and it's just like not the same, right?
All right. So Spain went out at 2018 against Russia. Was it the round of 16?
It was PKs too.
I knew it was PKs, but I couldn't remember if it was a quarterfinal or a round of 16.
Yeah, in fact, 32 of the last 35 times a superpower, quote, iconic team has played in the round of 16, they've advanced. 3 times they have not. Spain this time, Spain in PKs against Russia, and then, of course, in 2002 when Italy lost to South Korea. But that just shows you how powerful. Once you get to the round of 16, the crest weighs heavy.
So
Experience, I don't know.
I forget which country this was, which kind of messes up the story because I can't really tell if it worked or not. But I remember there was one country who, to try to replicate game day conditions, they practiced penalties after very tough physical sessions, first of all, so they would all be tired. And then secondly, everyone who missed, the whole squad had to do a lap around the pitch. In addition to already being
Was
tired.
that club team or national team?
That was the national team, and I'll try to look up who it was. And that was an idea to A, make them tired, and B, put some sort of social pressure on it for them so that they wouldn't want to mess up. But I have no idea if that worked or not. I definitely don't think it's a lottery. People in England keep saying the penalty shootout is a lottery. It really isn't.
Not a coin toss, yeah.
So some countries are manifestly better at it than others, and there are clearly like skill factors and psychological factors at play. But there are different theories as to,
Well, they're just like at the club level, at the national team level, some teams dedicate a lot of time to the science of taking PKs, both studying opponents, preparing your players, psychological things you can do. One of the things that really work, a technique before you take your PK, you're supposed to reset yourself and take your time to just chill for a second.
Yeah.
And the guys that just kind of go up and just take it, I mean, I guess it can go both ways, but it just didn't seem like Spain was comfortable taking their PKs. And maybe it's what Lars said, the teams that have less pressure, like there was a lot of pressure on Spain to win that shootout in advance because it's Spain.
And, for sure.
Maybe that.
Well, and considering they went out in the last tournament in the same way,
right,
and the pressure.
They're 1-4 in World Cups now in PKs.
To see Busquets take a PK that poorly and have it saved that way was just shocking. Absolutely shocking.
And actually, going back to yesterday, and even though Croatia were favorites, in a weird way, there was more pressure on Japan because for them it would have been such a big deal to go through. They're a huge country with a massive population where football is really kind of taken off. Again, I heard a thing where I haven't seen the television rating, but the live stream audience for the game against Croatia was something like 20 million in Japan.
Wow.
So a lot of people, a lot of Japanese people, and that was just the online stream. The television numbers will be on top of that. A lot of people were watching that, and it would have been a massive deal for them. So I think they really felt the pressure there.
Yeah, too. And also they had lost in the round of 16 and another time by PKs as well, while Croatia kept advancing in PKs in the last World Cup, so a little bit of
the weight of that,
too,
for sure.
Well, here we go. Spain is out again at the round of 16 after losing on penalties to Morocco, believe it or not. So that's where we are.
Think about this. Spain, 0 goals regular time, none in extra time, and none in the penalty kick shootout. 0 goals.
Who was the last team to score on Morocco, dear Andy?
Canada? No.
Alphonso Davies in Canada. In fact, that's the only goal they've given up the entire tournament. They've only given up the 1 goal.
I'm telling you what.
There you go. Okay, well, we're going to take our break, and when we come back, we will talk about who Morocco has up next, and I don't think it's Ronaldo next. Here is part 2 of Matchday 16 of Qatar KickAround. We have gotten to the part where we all get to laugh at Cristiano Ronaldo a whole bunch.
Before we get there, I just want to correct one thing about
Andy has a correction, everybody.
It was own goal that scored against Morocco. Davey scored against Belgium.
Oh.
So no player that has played against Morocco in this World Cup has scored against them.
Really? Okay. I just saw the one goal in the Canada game, and I thought it was...
Yeah, no, Davis scored in the second minute against Belgium. Yeah, okay, back to you.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's pull the curtain back a little bit, and I will share with everybody the funny moment from this morning before I'd had a full cup of coffee, where I sent a all-capitalized WhatsApp chat to everybody at approximately, I'd say, like 7:55 this morning, Dallas time, that just said, "Ha! Ronaldo's not in the 18. Ronaldo's not in the starting lineup." And then it dawned to me I was looking at the Spain starting 11.
Well, that was what I said. I'm not surprised he's not starting for Spain. I mean, that would be a strange maneuver by everyone involved, really.
You also came up with a great term, Lars.
Yeah.
Called it a Fox moment.
Yeah, well, because had a long
of the
chat
article that
we had a long chat about what a disaster Fox's coverage has.
Yeah,
either has been or hasn't been, depending on your point of view.
And if I'd just been cool and not said anything and stuck to my guns, I would have been proven right, because several hours later, lo and behold, Santos did not start Ronaldo. And the question we've all asked ourselves for a long time is, how good could Portugal be if they just didn't do the Ronaldo thing? Well, 6-1 good is how good that turns out to be, Lars.
Yeah, it's hard not to focus on it, because obviously Ronaldo is such an iconic player and such a big name for them, and benching him in what, if they lost, would have likely been his last World Cup game. You know, it's a huge decision for Fernando Santos to take. And you can say a lot of things about Fernando Santos as a coach, but he's not usually one for taking huge swings and decisions like this. He's a very conservative guy, likes to get the best players he has on the field at the same time, and likes them to primarily defend. He gets criticized a lot for that in Portugal. But here, with everything on the line, I wonder actually if just the fact that he didn't really have to consider the future. Like, Santos is 68 years old, I think. Cristiano Ronaldo is 37, he is, and looks like he's declining fast. And he knows if he's going out here against Switzerland, then surely he'll lose his job. And Ronaldo's probably finished on the national team soon anyway. So Ronaldo has no leverage over him in this situation. He doesn't need to worry about annoying Ronaldo. It doesn't matter if Ronaldo is annoyed. The only thing that matters is that they win this game. And with everything on the line, when he was kind of freed from the weight of everything, he decided, and I'm going to be to pick his best 11. And his best 11 does not have Cristiano Ronaldo in it right now. That's just how it is.
The fact that it was Ronaldo's replacement, though, takes it to that scored a hat trick, but opened up the scoring, just takes it to another level.
Well, a couple of notes. One, the goal that he scored to open the game up was like an old classic Ronaldo goal, right? Like super high difficulty, extremely low chance of actually going in.
Sort of Real Madrid era Cristiano Ronaldo finish.
Yes. But the other note, and I'm not an expert on the depth of the Portuguese roster, but when Gonçalo Ramos ended up in the starting lineup, I went to myself, who's Gonçalo Ramos? I kind of know that name, and I had to look up who he plays for, Benfica. And then it dawned on me, I'm not even sure he's the second choice normally in this roster of 26. And I just think it's interesting that Santos went with this guy when he had some other more veteran options at his disposal, and he bypassed them too, because I think that's part of the story here, is not just not starting Ronaldo, but going for a guy that previously, I think I'm correct in saying, had a total of 10 minutes playing for Portugal prior to today.
Lars, were you surprised Leao wasn't in the starting lineup without Ronaldo in it? Or positionally, it just...
Yeah, I think as the number 9, it's probably Andrea Silva I would have expected to see of RB Leipzig, who's got 53 caps and has been the guy who has played as a number 9, either with Ronaldo or if Ronaldo's not around. Picking Ramos is definitely, it's a big swing, and certainly very out of character for Fernando Santos. Should be said, Gonçalo Ramos very much seen as a coming man in Portuguese football. He scored 9 goals and 11 starts for Benfica. goals in the Portuguese league for the big teams. There's a big of a dog-ear element to them. I mean, they can come more easily there than elsewhere, but he's someone who has a lot of positive attributes, is already being linked with big clubs even before tonight. But no, it's an incredible. You wonder, it could have been a sense that he'd seen something in training to suggest that he was a little bit sharper than Andre Silva, perhaps. With Leao, I adore him, but I think he is a little bit more of I mean, the role he plays for AC Milan is basically the role that Mbappe plays, as the sort of inside from the left and bouncing off Giroud. It's basically his job for Milan. And playing him as a straight-up number 9, I think... Yeah. No,
you're right.
Maybe against the superior opponent where you get to counterattack a lot, that would be good. But against the Swiss, probably not. But yeah, definitely going with youth and going with mobility, just having a guy up front who runs really unleashed this team. You can just see look at the goals. Everyone's running around and moving, and it opens things up.
But there's a psychological aspect to this too. It's not just having that superior speed. I think it frees them up in other ways.
They don't feel like they have to get the ball to Ronaldo.
Right, exactly.
You can just tell the whole thing just looks way more unleashed. And by the way, he scored 3 different kind of goals in the process of his hat trick today, which I thought was interesting. But my favorite thing is he's the finger gun celebration guy. Who is the last? I don't know the answer to this because I can't come up with it. Who was the last noted footballer who used finger guns as his goal celebration? I know there's somebody, but
Robbie Keane.
Was it Robbie Keane?
What was Griezmann's thing?
Oh, he had some Fortnite stuff, Griezmann, always.
Okay.
Robbie Keane had both a bow and arrow and finger guns and a sort of strange somersault.
And the somersault in the flag. No, Tim Cahill's flag kick. Corner flag. Yes. The finger guns was always one of my favorite. Especially when you blow off the smoke from the barrels.
Maybe. I mean, Griezmann has done a lot of stuff, so that could be true,
So now, do we look at Portugal as a new team in this tournament?
Yes, absolutely.
As how we approach?
No, really.
Things.
I really think we do. I think we do because I've never really thought of them as a serious contender because of the whole Ronaldo complex about the fact that you have to have this old man up there that just isn't amazing. Thank you in the comments saying Luis Suarez also does the finger gun celebration. Of course,
yes.
The El Pistolero, of course, it's his whole thing. I should have thought of that. Very good commenters. You're smart people. But I never even thought about them because I just thought this Ronaldo thing, they're not going to get past them. They're going to have to play him, and it doesn't really work, and so they'll go out at some point. But now they looked so vibrant and full of life and full of running going forward.
They kind of look like Spain looked against Costa Rica.
Except they were playing the Swiss, who are usually quite good.
No, I know.
And it's the thing I talked about the other day with like Mbappe. If Benzema's there, he feels he maybe should pass to him, but if Giroud's there, he doesn't care. He'll just shoot. It's fine. It was a little bit of this because of who Cristiano Ronaldo is and the stature he has, and just one of the most famous people on the planet, and being from Portugal, which is a pretty small country. Like, he has a gravitas and a gravitational field on the pitch that just psychologically for the players, it must be incredibly difficult when they just, on a basic level, when they get the ball, not to think, okay, where's Cristiano? Let's get it to him. Because they grew up idolizing him, a lot of these guys, right? So many situations, I think these players will think, I have the ball now, how do I get it to Cristiano? Instead of thinking, I have the ball now, what's the best thing I could do with it? If you know what I mean? It just completely changes the whole dynamic of it, and they look so much fresher. And just having, again, if you have a midfield of Bernardo Silva and Bruno Fernandes, whoever's in front of those guys should be someone who can run, because you have so much potential for like playing brilliant through balls there. And Cristiano is he's still a great finisher, all this sort of stuff. He's still Cristiano. Maybe he'll turn up with a winning goal in the next round and make everyone look stupid. He does do that occasionally. But he's a guy who is no longer a threat in behind with his speed, because he doesn't have that anymore. He doesn't defend at all, so he's just a black hole when you don't have the ball. His hold-up play isn't great. So it just, aside from the finishing, which again he doesn't do as consistently as before, he's just not offering you an awful lot at the moment. So just having a guy who moves, I think, is so much better for this team.
Do you think it, because my perception of Ronaldo is that he lives in this weird bubbled headspace, do you think the reality of what has happened today is dawned on him in a realistic way? Like, does he understand that he now can't start for this nation anymore for the rest of this tournament because how well the team played today. Do you think he understands that? And part two of that question is, if he does understand it, will he allow the thing to move forward without being a petulant baby about it?
I will say part B. I'll answer part B.
Okay.
Yes, he'll allow it to go on because it's the Portuguese national team. And I think he has been different through the years with that.
Okay.
As opposed to club play. Now, the first part, I don't know.
I mean, he's had some very recent, very famous incidences for Manchester United related to
at the
this.
club level,
Okay.
a different animal.
Okay.
But this whole thing about him loving Manchester United so much is like, yeah, okay. This is a club you you force your way out of. Like, you wind your way to Real Madrid back in the day, and you come back, so, I love the club so much. Like, all right, good for you, Cristiano. But no, I do think... I also think when they're winning like this, because at the end of the day, he wants the last shot at glory. Like, he wants to lift a trophy again. He wants to be the big man again. And he must understand that he has a better chance of achieving that if the team is winning games, rather than if he's sort of hopping around out there not doing much. And maybe he can come off from the bench and score a penalty or something. I don't know. Like, there is glory in it for him, which is at the end of the day is what matters to him.
I don't know. I have this weird feeling that if they end up winning the World Cup and he's not a significant part of that story, that I just have this vision in my mind that people are going to take photos and post of him being kind of pouty about the whole thing.
Yeah, maybe. But I
hope
possible.
not.
Yeah, I want to give him some credit here and think that there will be pictures of him looking pouty during the game today, but the guy can't smile like a lunatic for 70 minutes when he's on the bench. Like, I mean, that would be weird behavior as well.
Right, and I do think because it's the Portuguese national team and he's wearing the country's jersey and the flag and all that, that he's gonna, the PR in him is gonna make sure that publicly he's portrayed as being behind this.
I would love for that to happen because I would hate it to ruin it for everybody else if he was just a big knucklehead.
And there's a difference too. If you're playing at the club level and your club isn't doing well and you're not playing, and that's kind of what was happening at United. If the national team keeps winning, you're not going to look very good if you start pouting because you're not playing. So and he's smart enough to know that. What he feels inside, completely different. I'm just saying the PR Ronaldo knows what he's doing, obviously.
And for his club, you can kick up a stink and go somewhere else, which you can't really do for your country.
Right, very good point. By the way, Ronaldo still won behind Eusebio, but you know who has 3 now? Ramos. He's only 5 behind Ronaldo. So there
Ramos
you go.
Actually now has more knockout goals than Messi.
Or Ronaldo.
Yes, yes, correct. An amazing debut by that young man. Fantastic. And they do look like a completely different team. And as Lars said, now we've got to completely rethink how this is all going to come together because Portugal looks like a completely different Portugal. Okay, so that means they face off against the Moroccans, and that game will take place. It's the early game on Saturday. All right. We will take a break, and when we come back, there's some kind of like high-level thinking this is a good time to take a break because now there's a couple of days off and kind of collect our thoughts and reflect, and maybe we'll do a little previewing as well, and we will attempt to do that next in part 3. This is part 3 of Matchday 16 of Qatar KickAround. And believe it or not, guys, there are no games tomorrow. There are no games on Thursday.
Right.
What are you holding here?
Gone. No.
So we are not doing a broadcast or a podcast tomorrow, Wednesday. We may be doing a preview podcast Thursday. I don't know, but we are definitely doing, obviously, a wrap-up show on Friday. So just watch the website, watch the Twitter feed, watch the YouTube channel thumbnail or whatever. We'll figure it out one way or the other. But It just feels like this is a good time for us to. First off, we'll get to the trivia. I just want to set up. I kind of want to take everybody's temperature on the tournament in general. Okay, and then maybe we'll talk a little bit. We'll do a tiny preview before we leave.
Yep. Okay.
I mean, you say there's no football. I mean, obviously.
Is Wrexham on ESPN tomorrow?
Stockport County play Charlton in the FA Cup. If you're into slightly more esoteric things, I mean, the Ethiopian Premier League is still knocking around as the Hawassa play the Defence Force. Defence Force is a great name for a club.
What a fantastic name.
I hope their defense is... the defense is okay. They've conceded 11 and 10 so far this season.
I hope their kits look like superheroes.
So far, Defence Force doing okay at the back, but they're right near the bottom of the Ethiopian top division because they've only scored 6. So Defence Force need to work on their forward play a little bit. No, so there is football, but... not a lot.
Sorry, I didn't think about that part of it, Lars. All right, it's time now for Professor Andy's World Cup Trivia, brought to you by Soccer 90.
All right, so this was related to Morocco advancing to the quarterfinals, and I just asked who the last African team to reach the quarterfinals was. Bonus points if you can tell me the World Cup and what team they beat in the round of 16, and then this will lead into some thoughts I have about this World Cup and the round of 16 that we've just had.
Lars, I'm going to allow you the honor of guessing first.
Is it Cameroon 1990?
No. In fact, Cameroon 1990 was the first team from Africa to advance to the quarterfinals. They beat England. I'm sorry, they lost to England in the quarterfinals 3-2 in a PK in extra time.
My answer is going to be Senegal 2010.
Incorrect. Senegal was the second team to reach the quarterfinals. They did in 2002.
I got my numbers.
But the last African team to advance to the quarterfinals was
the last
Ghana in 2010.
Yes.
Right. So you had the World Cup right. Who did they beat?
Having just made a big deal about how I'm always paying attention, I may have thought the question was who was the first.
Well, there you go. You would have been right about Cameroon and Roger Mila. Remember Roger Mila?
Yeah. So right answer, wrong question, or the other way around.
Who was the Ghanaian forward? Gyasi?
No, it was Asamoah Gyan.
Yes, Gyan. That's what it was.
So who did they beat in the
Baby
round of
Jess, I believe his nickname was.
Who did they beat in the round of 16?
In 2010, in the round of 16.
To advance to the quarters.
Ooh, was it Portugal?
It was not. Lars, any idea?
No.
And this will show that they beat the U.S.
The U.S. I was about to say that.
Sorry,
I got my group stage against Ghana and my round of 16 stage against Ghana mixed up.
Because 14 they had Ghana.
Yes,
they beat the U.S. in extra time, and that's how they advance. And it's very difficult. And what Morocco did today was advance against a superpower, a top team in the top 8 all-time World Cup points, and a team from Europe or South America. In the round of 16, 32 out of 35 times, the team from teams that are in the top 8 all-time table in World Cup play, when they play a team that is not top 8 all-time table in World Cups, they've advanced 32 out of 35 times. Same for superpowers, different teams, but it happens to be also 35 times. In regulation time, teams from Europe and South America are 23-0 at this round. 25-0, superpowers, 25-0. So it's really hard for a minnow to come up against a team like Spain and advance out of the round of 16. It's extremely rare. And I think it kind of shows what Morocco has. And those 2 other times where it happened, it was the home team. It was Russia against Spain. They were the host nation. And it was South Korea in 2002, and they were the host nation. So it's even more rare. It's, in fact, the first time it's happened when it's not a host nation doing it.
You're incredible.
No, I'm just saying it was a rarity. Today was
a
rarity.
But the fact that you know that and can put it into the context really shows your superpower.
But even though we kind of knew that we knew that Morocco had the capability of doing this, right, Lars? We still feared picking them yesterday.
Yeah, for sure.
Because of this history.
Yeah.
But the history, look, at the end of the day, I know what you're saying. It's the roster on the field.
Yeah.
But This is a big sample size, and it's several generations of players, and it keeps happening over and over and over until today. First time ever, really, for a non-host to do that. It just shows the power of the crest and what these big, iconic national teams start doing once depth comes into play, and this is when depth starts to come into play.
Fun fact about Asamoah Gyan, nicknamed Baby Jet, who did miss that penalty after Luis Suarez handled the ball. In 2017, founded an airline called Baby Jet Airlines.
What?
Yes, the company was founded in 2017, and its launch was officially announced by the president of Ghana. It was awarded an air carrier's license by the Ghana Civil Aviation Authority, but did not commence operations despite multiple announced start dates. So, Baby Jet Airlines, much like the tragic penalty against Uruguay, never quite sort of got there, and it never happened for him.
Yes, that sounds very unstable.
I am slightly baffled by the idea that he apparently got an air carrier's license.
Yes.
I feel like giving ex-footballers who start airlines based entirely on their nickname a license to carry passengers is not the way to go, Ghana Civil Aviation Authority. I'm not going to tell you your job, but this seems bad.
You know, in that game against Uruguay, not only did they not convert the penalty then they lost in the PK shootout.
That's right.
So it's just to make it more painful.
Okay, so here we are. We have 2 days without World Cup soccer. We're at the end of the round of 16. This has been very different. I want to be fair, but I also want to say this in a way that doesn't suggest that I'm promoting anything or forgiving anything, which is I think we all have to admit that a lot of the things that we were worried about at the beginning of the tournament have not occurred in terms of the execution of the tournament and the fan stuff.
Yeah.
That part has gone relatively smooth.
and so I can speak just from having spoken to some friends that have gone to Qatar and have returned, and that at least from the logistics point of view, you know, one of the things that we were fearing was that it was Qatar up to snuff in terms of the infrastructure, the logistics, not all the other issues that we can talk about or not, but, you know, transportation and facilities. And they said it was a really, really pleasant experience. When it was all said and done, transportation worked, that they were able to eat and lodging was fine and get around, and the people were nice and accommodating and friendly, and fan bases were great. No issues between fan bases.
Did they comment at all about the stadiums and the quality of the stadiums or the air conditioning of the stadiums or anything like that?
We didn't get into I don't think it was an issue. They said the stadiums are fine. The one issue they said was that the drop-off point from public transportation to the front doors at the stadium
was a distance.
Yeah. You know, and that's maybe a FIFA thing. You know, they want to separate because of, you know, terrorist acts. They want to keep the perimeter really, really long, or the distance is great. And that there were a lot of checkpoints, you know, between getting dropped off and getting in the stadium.
Yeah. Lars, go ahead.
I would assume so. They have all the money in the world. I mean, if they couldn't get the logistics right.
Right, but you just don't know because they've never had these many people arrive in their country.
Well, they're currently not having that many people. There are loads of empty seats in the round of 16 now. This is embarrassing.
Oh, really?
Embarrassing to see. Like a lot of empty seats when Brazil played South Korea yesterday. And so that's a problem, filling the stadiums now, because the locals apparently don't care, or whatever. They had ticketing problems. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
But like all these people left out. You know, most people travel and they buy enough for the group stage.
Yeah.
Then they come back. So the influx of lots of people happened early on, and they were able to handle that.
And
I just bring that up because every World Cup, you know, South Africa,
Russia,
Brazil, Russia, we all feared the infrastructure. That was the big fear. There are different issues with Qatar that we didn't talk about with those countries.
No.
But when it comes to infrastructure, there's always this fear, and it always ends up being kind of okay.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I'm no, because I'm reluctant to even. If we're going to talk about the execution and the host nation, then we got to go into territories I think we kind of agreed not to go into. So,
Yeah, I mean, there are other issues that are independent.
So I'm not going to speak my mind on it.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
But I'm also not going to praise them.
Yeah, I just
For
wanted to
anything.
give the perspective of fans attending because ultimately they paid a lot of money to go.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
hey, did you at least enjoy your experience? Was it okay? Was it, and it was like, yeah, that was great. I got to see my national team play in a World Cup, and now I'm back safe. What more do I?
No, that's good. Yeah, I'm glad that's what happened.
Okay, so in terms of the tournament itself, Andy is going to educate us and tell us that there really is no reason to be shocked at the surprises in the tournament or how this tournament played out.
I mean, we've talked about it ad nauseum that there are some surprises early on. Predicting what surprises will happen, the upsets, that's hard, right? I wasn't able to do it. None of us really predicted who would be the surprise teams. Lars was very high on Japan, very high on Morocco. That's pretty good to be able to identify those, minnows that are going to do something. He kind of alluded to those two.
This is very kind of you, Andy, but I was also pretty high on Denmark, so I've got to accept
We all
some
were.
criticism.
We all were.
for
Somebody
that.
here picked him to get to the final. I didn't pick Portugal to get out of the group. So you have to be picky. I mean, you just take your chances.
Well, if I had known Portugal was going to sit Ronaldo, I would have picked him to go much further than I
Well,
did.
but they
True,
got out
that's
of
true. Yeah,
they
yeah.
got out of group with Ronaldo. They got but
yeah.
we had our big giant not advance. It was Germany this time around. So all that went. And in terms of upsets, like when you compare a team like FIFA rankings, who beat who, we had a normal amount of upsets compared to 2018, compared to 2014. Compared to 2002 when it was last played in Asia, and there's a lot of recency bias. Like every World Cup, it's like, oh my God, this is the World Cup of upsets. No, they just happen a lot early, and then everything flips once you get to the knockout stages. I just gave the stats, and that's played out normal, right? So it's been a pretty normal World Cup, and now we have a quarterfinal set of really good teams.
We do.
Really, no, you can't say any of those teams that have reached the quarters are undeserving of reaching the quarters. When you look at the body of work, when you look at the body of work,
Yeah, there's not a
absolutely.
team that got left behind that I'm like really bummed out didn't advance. I think
I agree. I would have liked to see the crazy Serbians go on just because their games were so entertaining. But you can't really argue that they deserved it because of the defensive shenanigans. It just made their games fun to watch.
Do you have Lars? Do you have a player that you consider to be the player of the tournament so far?
Ooh, so far.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a standout like Mbappe. I think at this point,
I'm leaning towards Mbappe, and that's a boring answer, but
it is. But I mean,
I also just feel like Messi is kind of dragging mediocre Argentina on his shoulders in a way that I'm enjoying watching, but it's also not. It's not on the same level as what Mbappe is doing.
And every World Cup, we get a surprise, no name, shows up out of nowhere and does a lot of kick-ass stuff over the course of the tournament. Did that not happen until today? I mean,
Gonzalo Ramos already.
we all know who Bellingham is, and he's had a fantastic tournament.
maybe he can be up there with Mbappe. Actually, now that you mention him.
But that's just my question. I'm just talking about a young, kind of unknown player that kind of shows up and does well, and turns around and gets sold. For
just because a lot of people think the Dutch league doesn't count, Cody Gakpo.
I would vote for him.
Okay.
And I'm also in the most sort of low-key football nerdy way imaginable. I think Sofiane Amrabat, the holding midfielder from Morocco, is one of the big standouts for me, who just does such a good job tidying up that midfield and snuffing out danger and keeping the ball moving. It's a very sort of it's a very boring and anonymous sort of job, but he's doing it very, very well.
Yes, that Morocco has played Croatia, Belgium, and Spain, and not given up a goal from a player from another team.
Lars and or Andy, would you shame me if I told you I have quietly been very impressed by one Rabiot?
No, it's fine.
Who, by the way, I've been told ever since Manchester United was sniffing on him, and we're like, oh God, please not Rabiot. He's terrible. He's this weird person. I think he's actually played really well as a Pogba/Conte replacement, along with Tchouaméni. I thought those two guys have been really, really good.
Yeah, they've been solid. Yeah.
He's been on an upward trajectory this season in general. His performances for Juventus have been getting better. The thing about Rabiot has always been that he's been a solid sort of 6.5 out of 10 player, but there's been like 9.5 out of 10 amounts of drama around him, which is why he's become a bit of a punchline.
He's really into his mom, I know, but I think he's been a better than a 6.5 player in this tournament.
Yeah,
he's been a solid 8, I think.
But it's always been so weird with him because he's been this sort of decent all-around midfielder with a really good engine, who does weird things like refuse to be on a standby list for the last World Cup. And it's like, why do you have the ego? Anyway, point is, I agree, he's been good. And I think the fact that whatever you say about Rabiot, he covers a lot of ground. Like, he's got great stamina, he's got a great engine on him. And I think when you have a left flank of Theo Hernandez and Kylian Mbappe, whoever's on the left side of that midfield needs to run a lot because those guys aren't going to do much of anything. So, yeah. We have a shout from the comments saying standout player Richarlison, which I really like. He's been important for Brazil.
Yeah, that's a good one too. I hadn't thought about that. Okay,
the Brazil number 9 is a shirt that weighs very heavy.
Richarlison is what I was going to bring up. That
okay. I didn't know if you had any other overall thoughts. Okay, so I'm going to ask you both a 2-part question. It is, now that we're going into the quarterfinals, remember, we each picked Argentina to win this thing at the onset, at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, keeping that in mind, A, what letter grade would you give the tournament so far in the context of World Cups? Okay, A through F. And then B, are you going to change your prediction? Do you want to change your prediction of who is going to win the World Cup? Andy, you go first.
We have to do this. Grade.
You could just say no.
I'm grading purely on
the entertainment
soccer.
value of the
soccer,
tournament.
Watching,
right.
Yeah, not all the issues that Lars.
No, that's an F. Yeah. Go ahead.
B plus.
So for you, a World Cup connoisseur, this has been a B plus World Cup.
It's been B plus.
All right, Lars.
If we can just, if we're the only thing we care about is what's happened on a green surface in the middle of the park.
Yes, that's all we're talking about.
Yeah, then I'll go along with a B. I think it passes what I like to refer. It passes the DVD test so far. If you're putting together the World Cup highlights DVD, do you have a lot of good material? Yes, you do. There's been a lot of terrific moments, and so in that sense, it's been very good.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's interesting how the tournament has been played out based on our concerns of the timing of the tournament in relation to league play.
Yeah, that's
now,
a fair point.
What's going to happen after the tournament? We've already seen the quotes from not Minamino. Who's the Arsenal?
Tomiyasu. Who seems heartbroken. The poor
fellow. Who says I'm mad at myself and I don't know how long I need some time off. You're like, okay, there's the beginning of the after effect of how this is going to screw with league play. Is the mentality and the physical part. So now part 2, Andy, do you want to change your World Cup prediction?
Because I had Argentina and Spain in the final.
We all had Argentina as a winner.
Probably. I really like Brazil now in the upper bracket.
Lars?
But I like France, too.
Yeah, I pivoted to France after Matchday 2, or after their second game, and I've got to stick. I can't change my mind 3 times.
I'd love a Brazil-France final. I think that would be terrific.
Yeah.
I think those are the best 2. With suddenly now Portugal as like, hang on, guys. If you guys are going to actually pick your best
They're
team,
the dark horse out of the quarterfinalists.
Out of the quarterfinalists,
Yeah.
I'm just going to be contrarian and predict an Argentina-England final.
Yeah.
Just because I want to, and I know it makes no sense whatsoever. And I'm going to stick to my desire to see a storybook ending of Messi winning and lifting the World
Messi
Cup.
to score with a blatant handball that
VAR
just ignores because of history.
After a mind-bending run through all 10 English defenders.
Exactly.
Moving forward now, quarterfinals, anybody can be a winner. Now history, like the teams that should be there are there. The iconic teams that should have won. So now it's like, let's wait and see what happens. And the only time we've ever had a semifinalist in modern times that wasn't from South America or Europe was in 2002 when it was played in Asia with South Korea. So maybe Morocco can be that, because it's an Asia tournament, maybe be that team. It wouldn't surprise me if they got to the semis. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if they got through Portugal, although Portugal looked very good, but I don't count out those Moroccans, right?
That's going to be an interesting game because Portugal, the Swiss, we didn't talk about the Swiss at all. They played this so badly.
Yeah, we did.
They really kicked themselves they shot themselves in both feet, I think, in this game, which is not good when you're playing soccer. But Portugal were awarded a lot of space to run into with all these happy, liberated, galloping youngsters, and I don't think Morocco is going to make that mistake.
So the way this lines up is Croatia and Brazil is the Friday 9 a.m. Dallas time game. The Netherlands and Argentina are the Friday afternoon game. Morocco and Portugal, the Saturday morning game. And England, France. FIFA lucked out on this one. They got the best game for their best slot, Saturday, 1 p.m.
Yeah.
That should be outstanding. And I'm sure I
Saturday night in England, that's going to be quite
can you is England, is London buzzing over this? Is that all anybody's talking about is this game?
There is still an element of right now, London is kind of taken aback by just how many Moroccan people are here, because like the streets are, the streets have been packed with Moroccans. Yeah,
Are they behaving?
I've got a phone call from my girlfriend of many years who was on her way home from work asking, did someone win at the football? Because like the streets were blocked around about where we live, because it's not just Moroccans. I think it's all sort of North Africans, and a lot of people of Arab descent are kind of claiming this as a win for their guys. And rightly so. So they've been partying on the streets of London tonight, because we're a very cosmopolitan city, as you know. Saturday night will be lively. I think emergency services will be very busy in the hours in the hours of Sunday morning.
Well, Lars, I would suggest you go join the party tonight and enjoy yourself. I know you got an early morning tomorrow, but when you get an opportunity to go party with Moroccans who are celebrating a World Cup win over the Spanish.
Go eat some good Moroccan food.
Yeah, go do something like that.
That's not a bad idea, my friend.
They have
not a bad
great
idea
cuisine.
Andy's
Great
best
cuisine.
ideas are
love
always
it,
tied
love
to
a
food.
tagine. I'm all about the tagine.
There you go. Excellent tagine.
Thank you, Lars. It's great to speak with you again. Look forward to talking to you maybe Thursday, maybe Friday. I don't know.
We'll see. Anytime, guys.
All right, Andy, thank you, my friend. Excellent stuff. Thank you for watching the live stream. Thank you for listening to the podcast. I think we may be doing a preview pod on Thursday. If not, we will catch up with you on Friday, which will be the beginning of the round of the quarterfinals. And we'll do that here, hopefully, Thursday or Friday. I don't know. Just watch the website. We'll explain it to you then. Until then, get stuck in and win your 50s.